And so I was in basic training for like 4 months, the absolute minimum to qualify. So while I was in basic training, I said to myself, I think I want to go to business school. And I was smart enough while I was at Stanford to take the business board test and had done very well on that, which was good for 5 years. I was lucky to get into Harvard Business School, which I attended through the basic training. I'm going to say in June or July of 1967, and then started Harvard Business School in September. So that worked out smoothly. It was interesting because Harvard had this great reputation and so on and so forth. And I said, gee, will I be able to fit in? And for anybody who's listening to this, they may hear this kind of comment. When I got there and I looked around and was in a number of classes with the other people, I said, these guys are good, but there are no geniuses here. Obviously, it would have been very different if, this was in the Boston area. If I'd gone down the block to MIT, I would have said, whoa, this is too tough for me. But in the case of business school, I was comfortable I could fit in. Part of the reason was being relatively lazy. We had what are called also in law school the case method, where you'd have a class where there'd be a specific company with normally the CEO would be in a dilemma. And so the case would be, what is Mr. Jones or Ms. Jones going to do with getting enough production since, they're out of supplies of such and so? What is, the CEO going to do? And so you could read, if you wanted to be a great student, if that was your number one priority, you'd read the bejesus out of the case, come up with all sorts of answers and ideas. And so if the professor called on you, and there were about 90 people in my section E, and so if you were called on, then you'd, relay your answers and the work that you've done. I, however, might be doing something other than reading the case. And I'd have the case, but I would sit there quietly. But as the conversation started, such was my mindset that after about 15, 20 minutes of an hour-long class, as the conversation went on, I'd come up with some little wrinkle. So then, and part of this came from my years at Thatcher, I had what's called the boarding house reach. Let's say you're at Thatcher and you've got a lazy Susan turning with stuff, and I go pounce to get the chicken. In a similar way, when I was ready to make my little comment, then I'd go like this. And I was 6'3" at that time, right? And very often the professor would, Mr. Leppo. So I'd give my little comment, and then the professor would write down that I had participated. So this was a way that I could participate, get pretty good grades while I was doing things other than my schoolwork from time to time. At the State Personnel Board, and I was already investing pathetically, poorly, but having the gambling instinct. And another thing that I was doing even then was I was interested in reading, so I'd go into bookstores. And one day I walked into a bookstore and I saw a different copy of this, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator by Edwin Lefevre. And I, you know, took it out and read about 2 pages, and I said, "Whoa!" So I bought that book and I read it from cover to cover. And I still, to this day, if people ask me, "Well, I'm kind of interested in the stock market. What would you recommend I read?" And I always say, the #1 book to read is Reminiscences of the Stock Operator. And the reason is that it was really kind of a fictional history of a real life speculator named Jesse Livermore. And what was so great about this book is that it would place the reader about, in effect, Jesse Livermore at age 14 or 15, who's starting to speculate. And just like always, you get into a situation where sometimes the stocks go up, sometimes they go down, so on and so forth. And each time you get one of those situations, you have an emotional reaction. Emotions are very important. And more than any other book, you get the sense by reading Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, what is it like to actually speculate in terms of the emotional impact. There's several great stories, and one of them is about, I think his name was Turkey. He was an older guy who was in the office where the protagonist was working, and somebody came over to him and gave him a tip on a stock, and he said, I gave you this tip, right, Mr. Jones? Turkey. He kind of looked a little bit like a turkey, I guess. And he said, "Oh yes, I appreciate it. Yes, you told me about it at $20 a share, and now it's 30." And the other person said, "Well, I've just received information that I think means that you should sell your stock, and you may well have a chance to buy it back earlier or at a lower price." And he said, "Oh no," said Turkey. "Oh no, I couldn't do that." And the guy was kind of paused, and he said, "Well, why not?" He said, "Well, I appreciate your telling me about it, and I'm very happy that I bought the stock, and I'm happy to hold it, but my experience tells me I don't want to sell it." And they the person who was talking to him kind of laughed to a couple of friends. He doesn't really know what he's talking about, or so on and so forth. And what Turkey says is, nope, it's a bull market. And what I've learned is that when you're in a bull market, you don't know how long keep going, but you hang on to it. And he got very emotional about it. This is why I can't sell. So part of the reason that I learned that lesson from this book is because of the emotion involved in what the guy was talking about. It happens to be a very good lesson. So, for example, if I'm speculating and I think the market is bullish, which is not what I think right now, I think the stock market is way overpriced. But if I think the market is bullish, even so, I will say there's a certain amount I'm willing to lose, and then I'm going to give up. And so very often I will put in what's called a stop order. Let's say the stock, I bought it at 20, it goes to 30, and I want to hold on to some of that. There might be 28 or 27 where I might be apt to say, if it gets down to that price, I want out. And there's no other book that puts you in the cockpit, so to speak, of speculation as well as Reminiscences of a Stock Operator.